Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, big welcome. My name is Marissa. I am a licensed professional counselor and this is Selfcareriss. I create videos to show my lifestyle and my knowledge around mental health. So I'm so happy to have you guys here today. Today I'm going to be doing the second video in my therapist react series where I either get stories from you guys off of Instagram or YouTube, or I look up my own to react to. So today I'm going to be reacting to some stories that I found from The Cut. This was written back in 2017 and it's 8 women on therapy horror stories. I don't know if I'll do all 8 of them today, just depending how long they are and how juicy they are, but that's what I'll be reacting to today. I have not seen any of these. I was just like, found something to react to. So that's what we're doing. So this is all blind react. And we're gonna get into what my personal and professional thoughts are as a therapist when it comes to these stories. So if you guys aren't following already, please subscribe to my channel to get even more therapist react videos. I'm hoping to do some shows or movies soon. Or like I said before, if you have an interesting therapy horror story, please DM me, please send it to me on Instagram, or you can email me at selfcareriss@gmail.com and I will read it and hopefully it will get picked to be reacted to. Okay, let's get into these therapy horror stories. All right, y'all, let's get into these therapy horror stories. This was written by Alyssa. This was written by Alyssa Shelasky, like I said, from The Cut, so I will link this down in my description. I'm hoping this time to have it on the bottom of my screen when I'm reading from. So future Marissa, get on that with editing. Also, how are we feeling this braid today? Put it in this week and, oh, don't look at that.
And you know what? What was that?
It's a little old, but it's just so nice. Okay, anyways, this one is called She Only Talked About Herself. Just by that title alone, it's not a good start. We'll get into that later why, but that's not a good start. Okay, this is what it says. I swear my therapist was only there to talk about herself. Every time I visited her, she would tell me about her friend. It was obviously about her. Okay. And then there was a time that she was inspired by my silly fashion and bought the same sweater I always wore to our sessions. What? Of course, I never would have known this if she hadn't shown up to our meeting wearing it, while I had mine on too. Okay. Let's rewind a little bit. First red flag as a therapist. Your therapist should not be only talking about herself in session. The session is there for the client and the client like 99% of the time. The only time, and this is how I learned, this is what I've heard from other clinicians, the only time where it's appropriate, and I'm pretty sure I said this in another video, I cannot remember which one. The only time it's appropriate to talk about yourself in session is when you're building rapport and when you feel like that is beneficial to the client. It has to be very selective. You can't just be throwing out whatever, whenever. So for me, times that I often disclose are mostly with kids. They wanna have that connection. So, you know, if they're like, I'll ask like, you know, what's your interest? And I'll like say like, oh, me too, I really love that. And then it helps build that rapport. And I'll even do that with my adult clients because I have been an athlete in the past. In my client reports that they have also been an athlete, that's another time I take the opportunity to self-disclose and tell them like, oh yeah, I really do get it because I've been there before. But it's very selective things. I definitely don't do it on every single thing because I show up in my client sessions a lot in their stories, in their descriptions, in their experiences. And if I talked about myself every single time a client shared their experience, it would be the Marissa and the client show. And that's not what we're here for. This is a one-sided relationship and that's for the client. That's red flag number 1. And also clients aren't dumb. If you are trying to disguise this as your friend and it just seems a little too close to home, they're probably gonna pick up that it's about you and not an actual friend. And then there's something going on with that therapist if she's trying to wear the same stuff as you and in session with you. That sounds like she doesn't really know her boundaries, and that is unethical. It sounded like it really impacted their relationship. Those are my thoughts on that. Let's go on to the next one. This one's called She Set Me Up with the Freak. Okay. What's the freak? Who's the freak? I need to know what's going on. Okay, who's she? I have questions already. So it says, my therapist set me up with another one of her patients who was a writer. He wrote about the porn industry and lived literally in a closet. Okay, this is how there's so much jam-packed in the first 2 sentences. That's what I want to know. For our first date, oh, so by setup, you meant set up like to date. Oh, okay. For our first date, he met me at work. I had to swing by my place to change before we went out. So I went to the bathroom to freshen up, and when I came out, he was lying naked on my bed. No. Absolutely not. I had known him for 5 minutes. At first, I was confused as to why my therapist would set me up with such a schmuck. So I confronted her about it. She laughed it off, and she immediately wanted me to pay my bill. She's not right for that. Okay, first off, I don't know the ethical code says about that with like connecting patients together, but it sounds unethical to me. It sounds very unethical because I would never imagine find one of my clients and connect them on any level, intimate, like romantic, a friend, to each other. That seems very breaking confidentiality much. I don't know if that's actually written or even a thing, but it sounds like breaking confidentiality. Anyways, on a more personal level, because this is outside the counseling arena, the fact that he showed up naked on the first date, known you for 5 minutes, that's a red flag for him personally, because that has not been established yet. That relationship has not been established. That's not what we were gonna do there. That was just off. That's off. But back to the counseling place. There's a big question of why the counselor would set you up with a schmuck. But bigger question, why would the counselor set you up with another patient at all? That's what I'm wondering about. I'm not even worried about who the type of person it is. I mean, yes, eventually, but like, why was it even set up at all? This is not matchmaker, this is counseling. And the fact that she just laughed it off, she didn't even like go like answer your confrontation about it. It was just like, yep, that will be $100 or however much she owes. That's just really, sounds like she didn't like confrontation. I wonder if this woman is still with her because that's intense. That's a lot. That's really a lot. Okay, on to the third one. Let's see. She didn't know my name. I think we had one like this in our first one. Yeah, I think it was the last story that we read. The counselor, the psychiatrist didn't know, or she kept messing up the client's name. That's like my biggest fear. Like I'm always double checking to make sure I know the client's name. Yeah, just it's bad in general to forget someone's name, not even in counseling, but outside of it too. But anyways, let's read this. I saw this woman in Michigan before I moved to New York. I was trying to get all my mental shit together and come to terms with my baggage, deal with my fear, etc. So I could leave in a good place. Okay, I was 23. I saw her for about 6 months and she was pretty useless. Oh, great. She had sheepdog hair, so I couldn't really see her face, and she wore sweaters with lots of bows on it. Okay. Okay, I'm like kind of standing for the clinician here. Why are we judging her appearance? If it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit. But we gotta make fun of how she looks. The only downside I see to that with the sheepdog hair is that you can't see her facial expressions. And so it's probably hard to connect with her if you can't see her face. But let's continue. So one day she was going on about how I didn't know who I was or where I was going. And I said, that's what I said on my first day here. I don't know who I am or where I'm going. And then she said, tell me, who is Marlo? So it seems like she wasn't really paying attention to the presenting issue here. My name is Marla. She didn't know my name. I wanted to say I didn't know who Marla was, but I'd be happy if she paid my bill. Instead, I left when the session was over, called her later, and told her I wasn't coming back because she didn't know my name. I resolved to use the money I was wasting on her for my move to New York, which was vastly more therapeutic. Right before I moved, I went out for a goodbye dinner with some of my friends, and she was at the restaurant. Ooh. It's always weird to see your therapist in the wild. We waved, but I didn't go to say hi. The funny part, I can't remember her name. Oh, okay, let's look at this. Red flag number 1 is, I'm not gonna say her sheepdog hair and her sweater with lots of bows on it were a red flag. That just sounds like a personal style. If that turns you off in a way, you can for sure find someone else with a better style, better fit that you feel more comfortable with, but that's not a red flag. Like I said, I'll give her an orange flag, maybe even a yellow flag for just having hair in her face so you can't see her facial expressions. I'm sure that impacted the rapport. But big red flag is she did not know the presenting problem. She wasn't paying attention to that. That was 1. We get an intake before sessions, and We review it. It helps you know who the client is. Typically, we try to reach out to the client before first session even happens. And so we already should know the client's name. We should know they're presenting issues and all that stuff. So like, I mean, for me, it helped me get mentally prepared for the session. So the fact that she was just like, didn't know that, red flag. Second big red flag, she didn't know her name. And I know people are gonna say like, oh, Marla, close. You know, she shouldn't be that mad. But think about it. If your name was like Chelsea and someone kept calling you Kelsey, that would probably irritate you too, right? And so for a therapist, which is part of the job to build that rapport and have those interpersonal skills, and not to know your name, that's pretty bad. I'm glad the client was able to speak up for herself and say like, this is not gonna work anymore. Because she definitely deserves someone who's gonna know her name and remember it. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, let's do one or two more. Okay, she was obsessed with all things Trump. Ooh, not a hot button topic. All right, so around the election last year, my old therapist asked me every session if I was Republican. When I reminded her that I was not, she would go on to talk to me about all her clients who she thinks supports Trump. Obsessed with Trump all day, all night. That is all she talked about. One day we got into it. I went to her to talk about my stress at home, but she kept asking me about Hillary. I was a huge Hillary fan. So was she. Then she made the biggest mistake. She told me that an educated, rich, white politician, Hillary, had suffered more than any woman in the world. Okay, I'm gonna hold my comments to the end. Okay. She said Hillary had endured the most as a woman ever. I said, more than enslaved Black women? I wish I had some tea to sip. Okay. She said yes. I was like, girl, bye. I was so weak. Okay. My next session was scheduled for the day after the election. Hillary lost. I was upset, but I knew I couldn't listen to her whine about Donald Trump for the next 4 to 8 years. So I rescheduled my appointment. She fired me as a patient, saying I no-showed. Whatever. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Let's go back. We need to go back. There's a lot here. There's a lot. Okay. Sorry, I'm like processing. We need to start from the beginning because that was a lot. First off, her asking you if you're a Republican as many times as she did is crossing a boundary, because obviously at that point it's become a personal thing for her. If I'm asking my client about anything, not even related to politics, you know, are you a vegan? Do you work out in the morning? Do you do this? Do you do that? Constantly, and I already know my answer. And this is if I was in, it's because it's coming from a place where I either have an issue about it, I'm obsessed about it, or, you know, I think that this is right. That's like me, you know, someone who continues to tell me that they work out at night, and I know that I work out in the morning, and I'm like, do you work out in the morning? Do you work out in the morning? I think you should. Like, basically, it's saying it without saying it, like, I think you should. Or, you know, whatever, we need to talk about this. Red flag number one. Another red flag is her talking about Trump, like 24/7. And it's not the fact that it's Trump. You can have whatever stance you have on him. It's the fact that she's talking about this certain thing over and over again, because again, it's making the session more about her than it is the client session. Another one. Now, she did a 2-for-1. She killed 2 birds with 1 stone in this one. So the first part to this 2-for-1 red flag is that when she brought up that she was stressed at home, he immediately invalidated her feelings and said that Hillary is the most stressed person. She immediately made it about Hillary than her. That would have been a great opportunity to say, why are you stressed? What's going on at home? How can we help? What are your needs? All that stuff. And instead, she made it more about something that she was more interested in talking about, which was Hillary, like in Trump, how she already has been doing. The real kicker is, and I was getting a little bit worked up, I was reading this because on a personal level, that statement she made about Hillary suffering the most as a woman is just like, I can't wrap my head around that. And the fact that the client even said more than enslaved Black women, and then she said yes, she doubled down on it. No. Just no. Because I think we can all collectively agree enslaved people have experienced the most suffering of all. And someone like how she said, who is an educated, rich, white politician, does not even come, she is miles and miles and centuries away from that, I'm sure. And I don't know Hillary, I don't know her life, I don't know any politician, I don't know anyone's life. But to make that comparison is a giant jump. And all in the process, that's still invalidating the client's experience and feelings with what she's going through. Because how are we jumping to all these other things without even addressing what the client's concern is? You get what I'm saying? That was bold of her. That was bold. And then lastly, the fact that she fired you as a patient because you no-showed. So this is hard at times. And because, you know, I don't know all the details. You know, I don't know if she no-showed before. I don't know if, you know, this is a pattern. I don't know their policies. But typically, like, I'll talk from my experience. After 3 no-shows or 3 cancels, I don't know if they're late cancels or just cancels, period, we have a right as clinicians to terminate services. Because at that point, not only have you not showed, but it's been a pattern, and that's time and money, to be blatantly honest. At the end of the day, we're still a business, and if you don't want to come for your healing, we cannot make you. And that's the message you send us when you keep no-showing. So like I said, I don't know if this person no-showed before, but I will say if it was their first no-show, I do not think, from my experience and my practice, that is not grounds to fire someone if there was 1 no-show. That's really, that's giving no grace at all. Editing Marissa here. I just realized from that story that they said they had rescheduled and she called it a no-show. In that case, then you can't just fire someone by calling it a no-show. Obviously, she rescheduled. Whether that she was going to come back or not, that's one thing. But you can't just call it a no-show and then cancel or fire someone. So that is just all the way bad. But everything I said about no-showing and the amount of times you no-show still stands. But I think it was a little different in the situation that I missed. But it sounds like from this experience, it was definitely biased with the election and that result. What a personal thing that the clinician had going on in that moment. That was a good one. That was a lot though. You know, are you guys' thoughts about this? Because that's intense. All right, guys, so we are gonna end there. I hope you guys enjoyed this second video, my therapy horror stories series. Today was a good one. I think my favorite one was that Trump one because it was just a wild story. So please let me know what you guys think in the comments about these stories today. I hope to make another video on this soon. Please send those stories. Like I said before, I would love to react to them. And I will see you guys in my next one. Bye, guys.